Story 1. Dor in Romanian conveys a mix of wanting, longing, missing, and desiring. I can experience dor for a lover. I can experience dor for a burger. I can experience dor for my birthplace. It's beautifully rooted in Eastern European culture. Story 2. Ubuntu, a term from Zulu and Xhosa, refers to the belief in a universal bond of sharing that connects all humanity. English cannot fully capture that warmth. Story 3. Philatimo describes an attitude toward fellow humans and humanity at large. It means showing empathy, compassion, and generosity without expecting anything in return, taking pride in doing what is right and honorable, and being humble at the same time. Story 4. Saudade, in Portuguese, translates to longing, but this translation is inadequate. Nostalgia or missing someone doesn't capture its essence. I'm not even sure the emotion resonates outside the culture. Story 5. Yenfun, or Yuinfin, describes a personal meeting or situational encounter that arises from a harmonious collaboration of fate, serendipity, and karmic consequences. It is both inevitable due to soul agreements made and willed by the universe. A close equivalent is the Turkish word kismet. Story 6. One of my favorite Ukrainian words that doesn't have a perfect equivalent in English is zatashok. It conveys a sense of coziness, warmth, and comfort, especially in a homey atmosphere. English has coziness, but zatashok feels deeper, like a state of peace and security. Story 7. Merienda is a meal served in the afternoon, typically including coffee or tea and something sweet like pastries or toast with jam. Story 8. Well, asat, the day after tomorrow, is a really useful word in Japanese. Almost all languages have a word for this, but for some reason, English dropped overmorrow and decided a longer phrase would be better. Story 9. I love the Danish word for partner, girlfriend, or boyfriend, kæreste. It translates to dearest and is gender neutral. Story 10. Lekker is translated literally as tasty, but it can be used for many things, such as describing the weather, an activity, or how something went. Its versatility is noteworthy. Story 11. Manja in Malay. There is no true English word to describe it. I often see it translated as spoiled or pampered, which only captures part of the meaning, and that genuinely frustrates me. The other part, the more beautiful aspect, resembles a playful behavior that one would exhibit only in front of someone they are very close to or affectionate with. It's akin to pretending to be upset, but not entirely meaning it, in an endearing manner that you'd only display with a parent you have a good relationship with or a partner. Story 12. Lagom Swedish. An approximate translation would be just right, indicating a balance or moderation, but the term is much more versatile. How warm do you want the bath to be? Lagom. How much potato do you want? Lagom. How did the race go? Lagom. Was it warm outside? Lagom. The word originates from the Viking Age, when people had to share one jug of mead, ensuring there was enough for laget om, or around the team. We also have a word for closing your eyes, blunda, which is quite convenient. Story 13. Gemütlichkeit is a German term that conveys a feeling of warmth, coziness, contentment, and a sense of belonging, often shared with others. Story 14. I always thought that the word przyjaciel in Polish is simply an equivalent of friend. However, seeing how easily English speakers label others as friends, I must concede it is not the same. You wouldn't call your workmate przyjaciel after sharing a few lunches with him. It implies a much deeper emotional connection and trust. Story 15. Schadenfreude. Noun. Schadenfreude de Schade en Friede. Often capitalized. Enjoyment derived from the misfortunes of others. It is a useful term to describe this feeling when people behave this way towards others. Story 16. There's a word the natives in my area use that sounds like shume, and it roughly means, oh no, everything is getting worse, and there's nothing I can do to help. I've always really liked it. Story 17. Fika in Swedish is similar to dräckamun in Faroese. It involves enjoying a hot beverage together, but the specific drink is not important, and sweets or bread are optional. The main focus is on conversation over a warm drink. It's akin to when Americans say, "Let's grab a coffee," although that typically occurs in a cafe. Fika or Drekamun usually takes place at home in a cozy environment. Story 18. Kuchisabishii is a Japanese word for when you eat something, not because you're hungry, but because your mouth is lonely. Story 19. Danish, trails. It is somewhere between sucks, annoying, and too bad. Generally, you can use trails whenever something annoys you or when something didn't go as planned. It's not a disaster, just a damn it or a slight for goodness sake. Story 20. Fursat is an Urdu word that translates closely to leisure, but it encompasses more than just leisure. In Fursat, you immerse yourself in the fullness of unstructured time. Story 21. Snickerglaj, Swedish, literally means carpenter's joy. It refers to the joy or pride expressed through decorative woodwork and ornate carpentry details, often found on wooden houses. Story 22. Not exactly what you're asking for, but I miss you in French is literally translated to you are missing from me, and I find that very cute. Story 23. Allora is an Italian word that can mean well, what, so be it, wait 1 second, explain, or various other things. Its meaning is determined by facial expressions, body language, context, and the situation. Story 24. Kayak, verb or noun, referring to grabbing or the act of grabbing something between two objects, such as with tongs or under the arm. Story 25. Saudade is a Portuguese word that represents a feeling of strong longing for something or someone you'll never get back, along with the associated sadness that comes with that realization. It is the superlative of melancholy. Story 26. Kolay gelsin is a Turkish phrase that translates to, may it be easy. It is used to acknowledge someone working and expresses goodwill without being explicitly a thank you. It would be nice if similar phrases existed in other languages, as it feels awkward to pass by someone working without wishing them well. Story 27. You do not have specific words for aunt or uncle from the father's side, or aunt or uncle from the mother's side. This poses a problem for large families. The terms are Kal and Kala for the father's side and Am and Ama for the mother's side. Story 28. I love the German word Fernweh. Its translation, Wanderlust, doesn't quite match the feeling for me, and it also originates from German. Story 29. For me, Door is a uniquely expressive word. It captures a deep, often melancholic longing or yearning for someone or something, usually tied to love, absence, or home, concepts that English does not encapsulate with a single word. Me door de tine is tender and powerful. A close translation might be, I miss you, but it does not fully convey the depth of emotion that door carries in Romanian. Story 30. Gatera is an Italian word that describes a woman who lives with many cats, significantly influencing her life. It can be translated as cat lady, but that doesn't capture its essence. A gatera spends a lot of time and money on her cats, and her house is fully dominated by them. Often, she lives alone with her cats and dedicates her life to them. Then there is abiako, although I'm not sure there is a satisfying English word for it. Abiako is the feeling you get after a big lunch on a hot day when you stand up. You feel relaxed and sleepy, wanting to lie down on the couch and fall asleep while watching a light-hearted sitcom. Story 31. Sympathetic or simpa. The closest meaning is kindred spirit. This serves as the perfect positive counter to boredom. Story 32. I really love how versatile putain is in French. It basically means fuck, but it can be used in many more situations and convey different emotions. For example, you have angry putain, happy putain, sot putain, excited putain, tired putain, impressed putain. You can also use it as an adjective to add more spice to anything. Story 33. The term jeune joie consists of two characters. The first character means to pour a small amount, and the second means to take a small sip. It literally refers to taking a small sample sip of a drink, but more abstractly, it signifies carefully thinking about a course of action. This concept is somewhat similar to mulled in English, which is associated with a specific way to drink wine and contemplate a problem. In modern times, it is often used in alcohol advertisements to convey both meanings, reminding individuals to drink in moderation and to consider the consequences of drunkenness. Story 34, Sabid in Chinese means stupid idiot, but the B part is not directly translatable. A direct translation would be pussy, but it is not used in that way. It is similar to the use of fuck, expressing negative emotions. There are different variations of B, such as no B, which means good stuff, tai B, meaning weak, and imada B, translating to your mom's pussy. It serves as a negative term, so when translating into English, an appropriate word must be found based on the context. However, in Chinese, we simply use B. I do not like the negative connotation of this term, as it stems from misogyny. What I appreciate is its functionality and usage, as well as the fact that it lacks a direct counterpart in English. Story 35. I really like the Japanese word kuso. It's a swear word almost equivalent to shit, but not quite. It can be used as an intensifying suffix, and its literal meaning is closer to that of bodily fluid. For example, hanakuso, which literally means nose waste, refers to booger. Call me immature, but I wish English's shit was more like this. Story 36. Furlouxs, F, or furlough, M. In French refers to someone who is sensitive to the cold. I can relate, as I wear sweaters in August just to feel comfortable. Story 37. Gemütlichkeit is a German term that encompasses a sense of coziness, friendliness, warmth, and good humor. I would use it to describe an evening spent with good friends, for example. Gemütlich. Story 38. The word nanner, or nannerd, silent D, in French refers to a movie that is so bad it becomes good or funny. There is a lot of debate about what defines a true nanner, especially in the context of movies like Sharknado, which are intentionally made poorly. Generally, one of the main elements of a proper nanner is that it must be created in earnest. The filmmakers need to have genuinely attempted to make something good, but they fail, often in a spectacular way. The sincerity of the effort makes it more endearing and slightly funnier. While it is mostly used to describe movies, the term can also apply to other art forms such as books, games, music, or theater. This word is often contrasted with the term navet, which literally means turnip. A navet is a movie that is simply bad, low quality, and lacks any actual worth. It describes a film whose experience is tasteless, bland, boring, and insipid. Story 39. Hygge is a Danish word that means fun, enjoyable, relaxing, and a mix of other positive feelings altogether. The closest in English would be cozy, which isn't quite the same. Story 40. Mon petit chou doesn't translate into English as it is used in French. In French, it is a term of endearment used where we might use sweetheart in English. Story 41. The German word satt does not have an exact translation in English, as it also conveys a sense of contentment. Story 42. Gesamtkunstwerk refers to a total work of art, where multiple art forms are combined into a single cohesive whole. The term studio, which is Italian, does not have a direct equivalent in English, so it has been adopted into the language. Story 43. German is the perfect language for this prompt. While I may not know the specific words, I understand that it has many specialized terms that convey feelings, emotions, or experiences that lack English equivalents. It is a wonderful language. Story 44. I'm an uncultured, unrefined American who only speaks non-standard English, but Backpfeifengesicht really resonates. Story 45. Not really the same thing, but I prefer lo siento, de nada, and c'est la vie to their English counterparts. Story 46. Bayanihan is a Tagalog word that describes the spirit of community cooperation. It refers to a situation where people in a village come together to help one another, particularly when working towards a common goal to ensure everyone's well-being. Story 47. Gezellig in Dutch technically translates to cozy, but it also applies when you are having a fun time with friends. It bothers me that there is no equivalent. Story 48. In Filipino, cupol refers to smegma. There's a way to massage words into a context, and cupolero seems to fit perfectly. Story 49. Verklineer in Afrikaans is used to describe something small. For example, a small room is called a kamertje. The Afrikaans word for a small dog or puppy is hanji. A small shoe is referred to as a skoentjie. A small drink is known as a drankietje. These words are fun to say. Story 50. An Italian colleague of my wife told her about the word papabile, which literally means popeable. It is used to describe someone eligible to become pope, but it can also refer to dates that might work for an arrangement. What about next Thursday? Ooh, yeah, that's popeable. I'll check with the family. Story 51. Mushten, Luxembourg. It is similar to the German term gammeln, which describes resting in a very relaxed manner, like rotting food. The difference from the German equivalent is that if butter is gegemelt, it's rancid, but if it is a bit mushteg, there is definitely a film on it and liquid underneath. The W is specific to the southern Luxembourgish dialect. Story 52. Foreigners usually appreciate the concept of saudade in Portuguese. It expresses the feeling of nostalgia you experience when you miss someone, something, or a particular time. For example, eu tenho saudade de quando eu era criança. I really miss being a child. Eu tenho saudade dos meus pais. I really miss my parents. Story 53. Kayank in Armenian means life in English. Although I don't speak the language, I learned the term while working near a predominantly Armenian area of Los Angeles, where a coworker taught it to me. I didn't realize it was often used as a romantic term of endearment. My team consisted mostly of Armenian women, and I made a few of them blush by casually using the term. Later, my coworker explained its romantic context and advised me to tone it down. Story 54. Ser and estar. The nuances compared to the verb to be are significant. I have seen Spanish learners struggle to understand all the uses and situations where each verb should be applied. I appreciate its usage in poetry and Spanish literature. Story 55. Rumspranz is a derogatory term from East German that describes things someone says just to brag, often signifying that the listener is unimpressed or indifferent. The person bragging is referred to as a pranzer, and the act of bragging is called pranzen. While many languages have words for this concept, Rumspranz captures a specific feeling, conveying the sentiment of, yes, okay, Uncle Andy, we've all heard the story 1,000 times. Nobody cares. Story 56. The Welsh word cwtch means something like a cuddle, with an emphasis on feeling safe and happy. On the other hand, the Japanese word harahara, harahara, describes the kind of excitement experienced when watching a scary movie, characterized by suspense and unease. I appreciate many examples of Japanese onomatopoeia. English uses various words for sound effects, but they are not always as specific. Story 57. Shalom, peace. This term is directly related to and carries the essence of perfect, paid, worth it, and making amends. Thus, it is the most common greeting instead of hello, and is sometimes used as goodbye. Story 58. Two Yiddish words that are often used incorrectly are chutzpah and schlep. Chutzpah has been defined as having the audacity to commit a grave offense, then seeking mercy. For example, our 6-year-old dragged the 3-year-old to the front of a very long pony ride line. In other words, the 6-year-old had some nerve to do that. Schlep refers to carrying something somewhere reluctantly. Can describe schlepping the kids to soccer practice or lugging around your luggage. Simply saying carrying or bringing doesn't convey the same sense of reluctance. Story 59. Duende, Spanish. The power of music, art, or creativity to evoke passion and emotion in others. 1. Korean. One's inability to let go of an illusion. Story 60. I speak English and was excited to discover the Arabic word zanka. In the Caribbean, we wash chicken, which means we let it soak in lime and salt for a while. This is done to reduce the taste and smell of raw meat. We use the term raw because there is no other word, but we don't mean it literally, as cooked food can also taste or smell raw. If you live in North America, you may not understand this smell or taste, which has led to many debates on social media. I was pleased to learn that another culture recognizes this smell and taste. Story 61. Makan, pronounced machoen, in Tamil is similar to homeboy in English, but it also refers to a brother-in-law. Conveys a strong emotion. Story 62. Vukojabina, pronounced Vukoyebina, denotes a place so desolate and forsaken that the only thing you can see there are wolves. Story 63. Nakama is a Japanese term that refers to friends or the people you spend time with. It is similar to a clique, but without the implication that everyone is the same. Story 64. Jaitinho, which translates to little way in Portuguese, refers to a method of accomplishing a goal by circumventing or bending the rules or transgressing social conventions. This concept is a deeply ingrained part of Brazilian culture, reflecting a cultural element that does not easily translate. Story 65. Arabic, Yaberni, literally, you bury me. A way of saying, I love you so much I can't imagine living after you're gone. Story 66. Cacoethes is Latin for an irresistible urge to do something inadvisable or an insatiable desire. Story 67. Kamaribi, a Japanese term, means sunlight filtering through the trees. This evokes a sense of calmness and beauty, suggesting that sunlight will always break through the darkness. Story 68. Fremschämen is a German word I use to describe what we call second-hand embarrassment, which is feeling embarrassment for another person, even though it is not happening to you. Story 69. Doch in German is a contradictory yes. If someone claims that something is not the case, you can respond with doch to reaffirm that it is. It is similar to saying is too in English. Story 70. Trails. Jysk, jotlentik, Danish. It describes the emotion of, well, that's annoying, but you can't do anything about it. It can also refer to annoying weather or a person, but still conveys the sentiment of, can't do anything about it. You cannot change the weather, and it is not your responsibility to change an annoying person's personality. Similarly, trist, also Danish, is usually used for sad or feeling down, but it can also be used in a similar context to express, well, I can't do anything about it in everyday conversation. However, this secondary usage is not as common. Trails and tryst can be used for similar reasons, just for different emotions. Story 71. Apachmelitsa is a verb in Russian that refers to the act of drinking alcohol again to relieve a hangover. Story 72. The Albanian word dua means love, longing, and desire. In English, it translates to love, but this translation does not capture its full essence. Another word is pramaja, which describes the sensation when wind hits you from both sides, such as when you leave a door or window open. I have never been able to translate this word because it seems no other language has an equivalent. Story 73. My first language is Polish. In general, it is a very difficult language. We have a lot of words and synonyms, and I adore that. However, because of this, I often can't explain exactly what I want in English. Kokum si, I love you, actually means something special. We don't use kokum in every context, like, oh, I love this dress, I love you, girl, or I love dancing. It is a deep word, and we won't tell it to everyone, which makes it perfect. There are many options to say friend. I don't want to call someone I barely know a friend because there are many levels of friendship. Znajemy, kolega/koleżanka, przyjaciel. I know I can say my close friend or something similar, but I don't want to use the word friend many times. In general, I am annoyed by how often words are repeated in English. In Polish, it just doesn't happen. Story 74. Mi cago en diez is a Spanish expression used to convey frustration and annoyance. A literal translation, I shit on 10, does not convey its true meaning in English. Story 75. From Brazilian Portuguese, lanche is an afternoon snack, not to be confused with lunch. It is similar to a British tea time. Depending on the region of the country, people will eat different things as well. Story 76. There's one word in English that I miss having in French: home. Maison exists, but it means house. It lacks the deeper meaning of safety, warmth, and the comfort of being with loved ones or in one's own space. Unfortunately, I have never been able to find a good equivalent in French. Story 77. Pose is an Afrikaans term. The closest English equivalent is pussy, but it does not carry the same weight. My friends and I use it similarly to how Australians use the term cunt. We often emphasize the initial P, reminiscent of how Malfoy pronounces Potter. Another term is aw weh. This word was commonly used as a greeting over a decade ago, but my friends and I have been using it more conversationally. Story 78. Mi amor in Spanish translates to my love in English. When you say it in Spanish, you truly feel it. Story 79. Not a word necessarily, but the letter Z in the Portuguese alphabet is non-existent. Also, made from scratch. My family is like, what? Story 80. Different types of love exist in my native language, which has distinct words for each type. When I write in English, I sometimes struggle to express those emotions adequately. The closest term I find is affection, but it doesn't fully capture the depth of those feelings. My native language is a Romance language from my continent, serving as an excellent medium for expressing love. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.